Hey, welcome back to the Maxwell Leadership Podcast. This is the podcast that adds value to leaders who multiply value to others. My name is Mark Cole, and I said welcome back, not just because maybe you've heard this podcast before, although I hope many of you have, not because maybe you're brand new. I say welcome back because we are in the middle of a two-part session on 10 stages of a successful dream. John Maxwell will be with us, and he's going to teach us how to dream and dream effectively. Now, after John's lesson, Traci Morrow will join me to talk about helpful ways you can apply this lesson to your life and your leadership. Now, let me say this, just since our last session, I've had a chance to talk with Susan, Kevin, Jillian. You all know who you are. I got to say hello to you somewhere, sometime around the world. That's just listeners like you and I that I got to see on the road. See, here's why. Because we've determined this podcast is about adding value to you. So if you would like to watch this episode on YouTube, go to maxwellpodcast.com/YouTube. If you would like to download the free worksheet that accompanies John's lesson, visit maxwellpodcast.com/stages and click the bonus resource button. My challenge is, like Susan, Kevin, or Jillian, make yourself available to this community, not just to learn, as you will today with John in part 2, but when you give us a comment, when you give us a recognition when we meet you around the world, we are doing this together because we want your dream to come true. Here we are, part 2. Here is John Maxwell.
Stage number 6. This is the I got it stage. This is where you put your hands on it and you got it in your hands now. This is the reward of the dream. Here's the question. Does the dream make the person or does the person make the dream? Here's the way this works. In the beginning, the dream makes the person. I believe this with all of my heart. In the end, the person makes the dream. And here's why. In the beginning, the dream provides momentum. But in the end, if the dream is to be realized, it's because you become a person of character. So it's both, not either or. In the beginning, the dream makes the person. At the end, the person makes the dream. And once you have the dream, once you get hold of it, then the good things begin to happen. Stage number 7. In the dream. I shared with you stage number 4 where a few shot it, and then I sought it, and then I got it. And let me tell you what happens when you get the dream. Number 7, more people fought it. What's interesting is once you get the dream, many times the criticism increases even greater. Criticism is the manure that helps us grow best. You've heard the story, so I won't give it to you today, of the Canadian bird. Surely you've heard the story. Okay, I'm going to try to tell it to you, but I haven't told it for a long time, so I may not remember it. It's about a Canadian bird who every winter, of course, went south, and one year just decided, this is ridiculous to take this long trip. These winters can't be this bad. I'm going to stay up here in Canada. I'm not going to go south this year. And so, sure enough, it stayed up during the winter and the cold winds came. And one day it was just rainy and icy and cold and it was horrible. And the bird said, oh my goodness, I can't stand it here. I got to get south. Took off, got in the air. Rain became sleet, began to freeze on its wings, and before it knew it couldn't flap its wings and realized that it was going to have to glide down and probably die. And so the bird glides down to some barnyard on a farm to die and frozen, kind of lays there knowing it's about to breathe its last breath. A cow comes along, steps over the bird, and while he steps over the bird, he drops a plop. Right on the bird. The bird is so disgusted. I mean, in its dying moments, a plop is dropped on it. Just ticked. I mean, what a terrible way to go. But the longer it stayed under that pile, the ice began to melt. And he thought, it's warm in here. Pretty soon he said, I'm going to live. And the bird just started singing underneath that plop, and barnyard cat came by and heard a noise and went over there and scooped that stuff off of it and saw that bird and ate it. There are 3 morals to this story. The depth just gets to you, doesn't it? First moral is not everybody that drops a plop on you is your enemy. Second moral is not everybody that takes that stuff off of you is your friend. The third moral is somebody drops a plop on you, keep your mouth shut. Isn't that a great story? That's just a great story. Now let me get to these last 3 stages of the dream. Because the stage number 8 is I taught it. I taught it. What are you doing now? You're taking the dream and you're teaching someone else. You're passing it on to others. This is where you're beginning to develop other people. Okay, number 9, 2 more stages on the dream. Stage number 9 is what I call the we brought it stage. This is where you pass the dream on to others. You're not teaching it now, you're passing it on. People are grabbing hold of it now. Wow. When we bring the dream to others, wonderful things begin. What begins? 2 things wonderful happen when we bring the dream to others. Number 1, we expand their possibilities. When we bring the dream to others, all of a sudden, we expand the possibilities and the potential of people around us. Number 2, they expand our possibilities. You see, the dream is a gift from the leader again to the people, and when I give you the dream, I expand your potential and possibilities. But when you begin to fulfill the dream, you expand my potential and possibilities. It's a win-win. That's why I put in your notes, working together means winning together. There's something about when the dream is legitimate and you bring it to somebody's life that the dream touches them and changes forever. Now think about it for a moment. Think when somebody brought you the dream and it grabbed hold of you. And all of a sudden, you thought differently, you worked differently, you paid the price. One more part, let me review it. There are 10 stages of a successful dream. I thought it, I caught it, I bought it, a few shot it. I sought it, I got it, some fought it, I taught it, we brought it. And number 10, many got it. That's the end of the dream. That's where it begins to multiply. I'm going to give you 5 huge principles of vision and dream, and I'm done. Number 1, the credibility of a vision is determined by the leader. The credibility of the dream is determined by the leader. If you study the 21 laws, you know what you call that? The law of buy-in. They buy into the leader, then they buy into the dream. Number 2, the acceptance of a vision is determined by the timing of its presentation. Timing is what gives the dream or the vision acceptance. By the way, the 21 laws, it's called the law of timing. Number 3, the value of the vision is determined by the energy and the direction that it gives. Somebody says, did the vision work? Let me ask you a question. What energy and direction did it give? By the way, in the 21 laws, it's called the law of momentum. Momentum is a leader's best friend. Number 4, the evaluation of a vision is determined by the commitment level of the people. In other words, when you evaluate, did the dream work? Here's the question. What's the commitment level of the people? That's called, in the 21 irrefutable laws of leadership, the law of sacrifice. You have to give up to go up. And number 5, the success of a vision is determined by its ownership by both the people and the leader. And that's called, in the 21 laws, the law of victory. So in closing tonight, tell me your dream, and I will tell you your future. Build your dream, and your dream will build you.
Leaders, you know better than anyone that growth is essential if you want to make tomorrow better than today. But fitting growth into your calendar takes intentionality and self-discipline. So, let Maxwell Leadership help make your growth achievable. You're invited to join thousands of worldwide leaders in using the Maxwell Leadership Growth Plan. The Maxwell Leadership Growth Plan provides you with convenient and easy to implement leadership resources, including video lessons from John Maxwell, all at your fingertips. Available in our Maxwell Leadership app or online, you'll be coached by many well-known leadership experts that will help you achieve your growth goals. You can even listen to this podcast right there in the app. Check it out for free today at growth.maxwellleadership.com. That's growth.maxwellleadership.com.
Hey, welcome back. We really are. Traci and I were sitting in here in studio, and to be honest with you, all on YouTube. And if you're not on YouTube, you've got to go check Traci's jacket out. And Traci and I, we don't always get to do this, but today, because it's part one and part two, we did both of them in the studio at the same time. And so Traci, with her cool red glasses on, said, "Mark, are you going to tell them that we realize we're wearing the same thing?" And I'm just laughing at Traci because I'm going to tell you this right here. One of the things I love is the people that John has attracted to his dream. And you guys know this, but this is the way I'm going to start kind of out of John's session today. When he said, "Many got it." Let me tell you something. That's not by accident that I've met you, Traci, because you were captured by John's dream at an exchange. I remember exactly that exchange. St. Thomas, incredible connection. And you know why? Because John has dreamed so big that many people have got it. And if I had one wish for part one and part two of what we're teaching, what John's taught, and what Traci and I will be debriefing, it's that you too will catch a dream that many will catch. You'll have people come into your circle like Jake standing behind the camera today, like Traci that's sitting here co-hosting with me, all coming together because we caught the dream that John Maxwell has given this world. And that's what's inside of you. That's what's inside of me. It's not to be egotistical. All of us have a dream that the world needs to see fulfilled. And so just as a recap, go back and listen to it. We talked last week about I thought it, I caught it, I bought it, a few shot it. Anybody in that stage right now? This past week, somebody shot at you. And then 5 last week, we talked about I sought it. But here we are today, Traci, and I'm super excited about jumping in and talking about what John shared with us. Thanks for being with us.
I am excited too. And I love where he kicked it off by saying, does the dream make the person, or does the person make the dream? Yeah. And I can't help but feel the power that we all are all, you, Mark, me, every single person listening around the world to this podcast today are all a part of one young 20-something-year-old John Maxwell's dream when he sat in that car or wherever he was that you talked about last week's podcast with Margaret, when he said, like, I want to be a part of impacting people around the world. We are a living, breathing part of that. All these decades later, we are a part of that dream now becoming a part of us and making us. And so that's really exciting for me. Sometimes when I sit back and I think we're a part of something so much bigger. It's not just about John Maxwell. It's not about me. It's not about you. When we think, oh, did I mess up? No, heck no. It's a part of a bigger plan of helping other people lead, because people do deserve to be led well. And so I'm excited to dive into the second half. My first question has just got to be, where in the wide world does John Maxwell get these jokes?
The
plot.
I'm telling you what. I thought I've heard John even share this story, but today as I was listening to that, I was howling because today I'm like sitting here going, you know what? I've got a little bit of mess that's been dropped on me, and I'm sitting here going, I don't think I want anybody to clean this off. I'm not sure what the next step would be. So I just kind of started feeling comfortable about the mess somebody dropped on me a little bit earlier today. So here we are. What a great, I was going to say, what a great story to visualize leadership, but I don't think visualize is what we're after here.
But Mandy, we all have a visual. And I love his clean jokes and his corny jokes, because it just, the word plop just cracks me up. We can all exactly know what he's talking about, what it feels like, but he somehow makes it sound cute. But it did get me to thinking in a follow-up question of where does he get these jokes, that not, he explains that not everyone who drops a plop on us is our enemy, but not everyone who gives us, not everybody who gives us pushback is bad. And then that not everyone who praises us without pushback is necessarily helpful either and for us. Yeah. So I thought that was a really great example. As silly as that joke was, it does teach a lesson amazingly. So what does it take for a leader to be brave enough or wise enough to surround themselves with people who are honest and truthful as they are pursuing their dream?
Well, I think it's to be honest first. I think it's to be willing to go first in the area of honesty. I just had it's so funny because I just had a series of meetings, and one of the people in the meeting was really giving me a very dismal report, just a really challenging, in my opinion, discouraging report. And I looked at this leader and I said, hey, can I ask you a question? Is your attempt here to level set me, to discourage me, or to encourage me? And I said, you may have a fourth option. I don't know, but that's the three that comes to mind. Level set me, discourage me, or encourage me. And the leader sat back for a moment and went, I think it was to discourage you because I feel discouraged right now. Well, I was waiting for them with great candor and confidence. I was waiting for them to say, it was just meant to level set you, because that was the easy way, right? That's the answer of a 5 out of a scale of 1 and 10.
Right,
exactly.
5.
You don't have an opinion.
Neutral.
And so I went, I really fully thought they were going to say to level set me, but my comeback to that was going to be, well, I already knew these numbers, and I know these numbers. So I was ready for the answer that I thought. When this person says, I think it was discourage you because I discourage you, I'm going to tell you what happened, Traci. My respect level for this leader went through the sky, through the roof, and here's why. I realized I had somebody that would be honest with themselves and also honest with me.
Yes.
Now, you know why they did that? Is because I paused and I put them on the spot, because I wanted to know, because it was not advantageous to the meeting. So as a leader, I led them through candor and I got candor back, or I led them through trust and I got trust back. See, when John says, and when he's talking about dropping a plop, he was really talking about this concept that he says more people fought it. You'll remember last week, those of you that have listened to last week, you'll remember when we talked about the family members and others that just did not catch it, and they really began to discourage us. What John's saying here is, no, it's gone beyond it. You've already got it. You've got it. But guess what? People are not happy that you got it. You're on your way. In fact, there's tangible results. You're starting to experience your dream. And now you got the people that's going, ooh, they're like the crab that wants to pull you back down with the rest of them, because they don't want you to get out of the bucket. So you've got a little bit of experience, and rather than surrounding yourself with people that are excited for you, it's people that fly over and plop on you because why? I don't know. So ask them, hey, why are you raining on my parade right now?
Yeah.
What are you trying to accomplish? And I have found the people that will respond well to that, I can trust them. When this leader told me that, I was like, are you hearing what you're saying? You're trying to discourage me. I didn't go, man, you got to be kidding me. You're discouraged. I'm discouraged. I went, no. I said, thank you for telling me that. Now let's get encouraged together.
Right.
The leader came up to me. In fact, I was a little late here, Traci, to the recording today. The leader came up to me after, says, I don't think I have ever been handled so well when I was feeling discouraged and I wanted somebody else to be discouraged with me. I will do better next time. I said, touchdown.
Yeah.
because of a candid conversation with somebody that was absolutely raining on my parade. I found out why. And then
Mhm.
they too wanted to change that and fix that and become better themselves.
hmm Why I love stories and why we are fleshing out and adding stories to these lessons. This lesson again is very similar, other than the plop story.
Yeah.
These don't have really application. These are unique stories or lessons for John in that they don't come with applications. John is such an application guy. And so we are fleshing out these stories. Why I love this story that you just told is because we have all been you and we have all been the other person in your story.
Yeah.
And every person listening can identify with, hey, sometimes when we feel bad, it's annoying when someone is upbeat and positive and we're looking through negative goggles. And so
Right.
sometimes, that hurting people hurt people. That's when we become that person. And it's so wonderful when someone handles us in a way or relates with us in a way that helps us to rise, which is what you did. And I think that's the lesson in that story right there is we can do that rather than be put out. You could have been put out and annoyed with that person on your team. You could have pulled rank as the boss. You could have said, we don't have that kind of attitude in our team meetings. We don't have that, please don't bring that here or whatever. But you handled that person with honesty and transparency, which gave them the freedom to be honest and transparent. So then that to me is a lesson of what kind of leader are we being that we allow our team members to be open and transparent when they're feeling not so great when they show up to a team meeting when ideally they should be positive.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that because discouragement is catchy, but so encouragement can be catchy too. So moving on to number 8, where developing others to do it. And John talks about, that's really about sharing and teaching other people to do that and sharing the vision with your teams in such a way that they feel like, you can't, if you're teaching it and developing others to do it, then that means they have to catch it and see it and almost climb inside and feel what you feel so that that vision is transferred. And so I'm curious for you. I mean, we talk about the 6 Types of Working Genius book. We've talked about that before. And the person who is a vision caster and helping get the team on board, if you haven't read the book, we've talked about it before on the podcast, that's a galvanizer, right? That's getting everybody on board. So I'm curious for you, Mark, are you a leader who is that one of your working geniuses? Can you clearly cast the vision? And then how does a leader who's listening in, who maybe isn't a galvanizer, isn't really one who can clearly cast the vision, how do you practice? If you've got this big dream, if you are now at step 8, how do you learn or practice clearly casting the vision?
Well, I think it's a little bit of this story I just gave you, Traci. You got to look for ways to teach it, and you got to look for ways to teach it when you're not lecturing or when you're not condescending. And for me, I've figured out that as the parent of a 17-year-old, soon to be, my daughter is now finished with her junior year. She's not a senior yet. That's a big argument in our home. Just a sidebar. She thinks that when she's done with a junior, she's a senior. I think that on day 1 of school, after the bell rings, if she's in her seat, then now she's a senior. It's a very dysfunctional conversation, but it's one that's very close to me. So I'm going to use my podcast platform to convince my daughter, and I'm just teasing. But one of the things that I have found at this stage in Macy's life is telling her what to do or even giving her context is not working as effectively as seeing myself almost as a mentor to her. So oftentimes, I think I talked about this on a podcast a few months ago. Oftentimes now I ask Macy, what do you think should be the decision here? And what do you think the consequences of that decision would be? I've changed it a little bit. The way that you teach something, especially in the idea of a dream, what we're talking about these last 2 weeks, the way that you teach a senior level teammate is different than the way that you teach someone that's just starting with the company. You use a lot of language, a lot of stories, a lot of excitement. With leaders, you have to ask the question, hey, are you trying to discourage me? Are you trying to level set me? Or are you trying to discourage me? I'm a little bit confused here.
Mm-hmm.
I did not know how this leader would respond. I was pleasantly surprised. But here's what him telling me after we were leaving, what that told me. I used the right way to teach him in that story. I don't always get it right. We could talk for the rest of the day about the times I've got it wrong. But I think teaching somebody to embrace the dream, you've got the dream, you're experiencing the dream, you've got people that are fighting the dream. That's where we are right now as an organization. That's where probably a lot of you are in your leadership. You're experiencing some success. You got some few people that don't like that success, and they're coming after, they're fighting it. Well, you're going to have to find ways that will help your team, help those around you to grasp the lesson of the importance of the dream. And rather than giving you 3 steps to help people, to teach people how to catch the dream or be part of the dream with you, let me give you 1 step. Know where your people are so you can lead them to where you are. Yeah. You've got to go to them before you can teach them to where you are. And too many people with the dream, they hope their passion will be contagious rather than their example. And I'm just going to tell you, your example is more contagious than your passion.
Yes. Yes, that is so good. I'm writing that down. Passion versus example. And boy, is that true. Now, it would be wonderful if you have passion as you are living out your example.
Absolutely. Exactly.
let me just say that if you are just drudging along, showing you're giving your example, that's not really all that contagious.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But I just think of like, you know, when you're casting a vision, is it visual? Is it you're painting a picture for them of this is where we're going as you are, when you're painting the dream and teaching them the brand new vision. And what I'm hearing you say is it's different for new team members versus old team members. When you are casting a vision, it's different. It's not the same. It's not a one size fits all for your team. So it's knowing your team members is really important. And I've seen that in leadership, to be totally honest. I have been on the receiving end of a leader casting a vision and just really missing the pulse because they didn't do a good job casting the vision or connecting with the people. So when they went to cast the vision, they didn't know what language to use to meet the people they were sharing it with because there was such a disconnect in relationship. Right. So what does it all come back to? Relationship. That's a big, important piece. If you're going to move forward with someone, with a team of people, in order to put this dream into play with a team of people, you need to know your people, whether they're newbies or they've been with you for years and years and years.
John gave me on that point. John gave me a point to use with some of my leadership a few weeks ago. He said, Mark, I want you to go talk to your leaders and I want you to say this, or he recommended it. He didn't say, I want you to do it. He recommended it. He said, and I tried this, tell me where you are so that I can lead you where I need you to go. Now, it was on a particular subject. We were wrestling with it and there was this huge disconnect. What was interesting is 2 things happened with that statement. One is I gave them a chance to show me, let me hear, let it be revealed where they were. That's always a good thing as a leader, know where your people are. But number 2, it let them know very clearly we're not on the same page. Mm-hmm. And John was using the point that as leaders, sometimes we're the umpire. We call the balls and strikes. And there's half the crowd that's watching the game that disagrees with the call. It was too close to the strike zone for it to be a ball. And there's a bunch of people watching that's a fan of the batting team that says, man, that was a close call, but that umpire got it right. That was a ball. Mm-hmm. It's that borderline call. And yet at the end of the day, who make the call? The referee. Not the batter, not the pitcher, not the fans, not whatever fan side of the fans you are. The umpire had to make a call. In leadership, sometimes you have to call the balls and strikes. Well, what I did with that question that said, hey, tell me where you are, where I can get you where I need you to be. I gave them a chance to say, hey, how do you see this situation? What are you seeing? But by the way, you're seeing it differently than me. And I got to get you to where I am, not stay where you are. So it was a statement to let someone reveal where they are. It was a statement that said, we're not on the same page. But here's the third thing. It was a statement that says, you need to get to where I am because I'm the guy that's calling the balls and strikes here.
Yeah.
Not in an egotistical way, just
No.
somebody's got to call the balls and strikes. And this particular day, it's my turn.
Yeah. And what I love about this, I just want to talk to the parents out there. Since you brought up Macy being a 17-year-old, my youngest son is 17, going to be a senior in high school. And I just have to say, this is exactly the kind of communication that works with young adults too, and teenagers, whatever. Is so many times there is clash with a teenager in your home because we are guessing where they are. And this exact kind of question of what you just said, Mark, is a great way of meeting your teenager where they are. If you're having a hard time communicating with your teenager, try what Mark just said, what John advised Mark with his team. It is a miracle question, because what it does is just, it defines where you both are. And then you as the adult meets them there. And sometimes you do have to pull rank as parent or umpire in Mark's analogy, but far, far fewer times. It just keeps so much peace in the home. It's amazing. Yeah. So anyway, I just had to throw that out there because, you know, me with a billion kids in my life, I just have found that John's stuff really helped me with my kids, John's lessons. So anyway, I always have to add that in. So number 9, when he said we brought it and we delivered it to others. And that is always a throwback to the P90X days of my life, because Tony Horton used to always say, like, bring it. And so I love when worlds collide and John says, we brought it. And so when we deliver it to others, this is a step, I think, that can bring great relief and joy if you have done steps 1 through 8 well, especially when you involved your team. But if the leader out here is at step 9 and you're listening to this podcast, my friend, and you're feeling maybe heavy or burdened, Mark, wouldn't you say that it's because maybe they didn't cast the vision in such a way that they caught it, and so there's a confusion there? Or B, that maybe they didn't release their people, they're micromanaging their people, like they're holding it too tightly? What do you say to a leader who is at this stage where they're bringing it and delivering it to people? They're taking their dream to the people, but there's some sort of a disconnect with their team and they aren't feeling relief. It's more stress as the dream moves away from them. Have you ever experienced something like that?
I have, and I'll try to be really brief, but I'm so proud of our team on this. And I'll take a minute and illustrate this too. You know, in 2011, we launched a coaching, speaking, training certification business, and we've now certified over 48,000 women and men from 166 countries to be a Maxwell leadership coach, speaker, trainer. About 4 years ago, we started seeing a huge growth in our Spanish-speaking community, but they had to understand English to come to Orlando to be a part of our certification. But we had a little bit of a workaround with that because we provided translation there. But all of our resources, our tools, and our vision specifically was not driven by Spanish-speaking community members transforming Spanish community members or Spanish communities. And so we decided that we wanted to launch Maxwell Leadership Espanol. Everything that we do in English, we wanted to launch it and start it in the Spanish-speaking community. And so we did. And last year, 2022, we had our first Maxwell Leadership certification in Cancun on Spanish-speaking soil. And it was 100%, besides John and I, in the mother tongue of all of those people, in the native tongue. And I'm telling you, Traci, it was powerful. It was incredible. It was bigger than we thought. It was more contagious than we realized. It was powerful. But the most powerful moment by far was not being in Cancun, which is not bad. It was not the growth that we had in the Spanish-speaking community because we exploded on that platform. It wasn't the financial benefit. It wasn't seeing the life change on all the people that got impacted by that event in Cancun that could have never made it to Orlando. The crowning moment for me is when Juan Varican, Carla Varican, and Susie Varican came up to us with tears streaming down their face and say, we have been in Spanish-speaking communities for the last 45 years, 40 plus years. And we finally are seeing the dream that we've been paying for more than 35 years. Here's what that meant. We expanded their possibilities. They expanded our possibilities. And together we won. But not only that, not just Juan Varican, Carla Varican, not just John Maxwell, Mark Cole. We did win. It was great. It was powerful. It was awesome. What won is an entire community that now has a platform to where they too can change their world. Because I'm telling you, 1 + 1, when done with a win in mind, is not 2, it's not 5. There is a multiplier effect that impacts when people realize that your dream that you had, that you could have kept it inside, was brought to them, and their dream and your dream comes together, and both dreams magnified becomes a world-changing dream. It's why, Traci, just to kind of wrap it up today, it's why I started this whole talk after John's teaching today about many got it. What joined you and I is we got it because John brought it.
Yeah.
And when John brought his dream to my world some 40 years ago in the form of a book, Developing the Leader Within You 2.0, he brought his dream to my world, and my dream that was inside of me became our dream way before John knew me. And now our dream has become millions and millions of other people's dreams, especially now in the Spanish-speaking community. That's what this means. It's full circle. It all started, if you go back to week 1 of this lesson, it all started for me in the year 2002 when I said, I want to be sitting at a table with John Maxwell, dreaming about impacting the world. John didn't know me then, but he was sitting there going, I pray for winners. I hope somebody comes and sits at my table that will partner with me to change the world. And then last year, we expanded into the Spanish-speaking community. And now tens of thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people are being impacted in the Spanish-speaking community because John brought it, I got it, and it all started back when I thought it 23 years ago with John. That's the case for your dream. That's not just for John Maxwell, Mark Cole, Traci Morrow. That's not just for us. That's for you. That's for those of you that are listening with that dream, that'll go back and test it, try it, engage it with these 10 things. Hey, we challenged you last week. I want to challenge you again. Go listen to our family of podcasts. We've got multiple podcasts for you at different places. Go to maxwellleadership.com/podcast. Let's make this podcast impacting to you. I mentioned Susan, Kevin, Jillian, the people that I met just in the last week that listened to the podcast, recognized us on the road while we were traveling. And there's many more. In fact, Lewis listened to the 16 Undeniable Laws of Communication podcast. In fact, it was a podcast all about this book, John's newest book. Go pick it up. We'll put it in the show notes. You can get a discount there when you go to the show notes. Here's what Lewis said, and thank you for this positive feedback, Lewis. He says, wow, I love this podcast every time that I hear or see your content. You add value to me, and I'm put in action to spread your message or thoughts to my family members as well as my colleagues and friends. We call that adding value to you, Lewis, and then you multiplying value to your friends and team. That's what it's all about. That's why we do what we do. We hope that we've impacted you, stirred you, awakened you, and caused you to chase a dream with this 2-part series. We'll see you again next week. Until then, drop us a comment, help us get better, give us a way that we've encouraged you, ask a question. We'll bring it to the podcast, we'll recognize you, and we'll continue to grow as a community because everyone deserves to be led well.